What's up, everybody? Today, very, very special episode. Got a bunch of stuff that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about college. We're going to have a good conversation about college and if you need it. And we got a special guest today. Come on back on the other side with us. Go. Hi, everybody. My name is Charles Cole. So happy to be back here with you. Omar and David are both out today. David has been really sick, so put David in your prayers. He is not feeling well. And our guy, Omar, is a school leader extraordinaire. So it's the end of the year. Well, not the end of the year, but it's the end of, it's coming up on winter break. They got a whole bunch of stuff happening at the school. But we have somebody that is joining us that I've been wanting to meet for a while. I missed this young lady when she was on last time and I was traveling because the three of us be moving. But I like to introduce Miss Jubilee Ransome. Welcome to the South Star Classroom. I'm so excited to have you here. And can you just tell me and the people a little bit more about you?
Yes, I am Jubilee Ransome, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, recently relocated to the DMV area. I'm a veteran educator, not a whatever I just said. Started in education in 2003, classroom teacher, went all the way up to principal, worked across sectors, both charter and public school. And I just want to talk to the people. I just want to continue to inspire and lead and have enriching conversations that ensure that we're getting our kids what they need and the people that serve them. So here I am, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. So it's so good to have you. I'm looking forward to this to our conversation today. So, Miss Jubilee, thank you for being here. I hope that you continue to join us and we see you a lot more. But there's a few different things we were just talking before the show that you wanted to talk about, and actually a lot of our work kind of overlaps. The work that I do, I run an organization called Energy Converters, and what we do is we focus on the end users of education. I like to call those end users the students, their parents, and their community. And we work on building agency in those young people. Also had just put out another book yesterday that just came out for parents called the Black Agentic Parent ebook. And it's a workbook that is built for parents like mine that they could have used when I was in school, that gives them agency that would have helped me navigate a little bit more, a little bit better, not have as many things I had to deal with. So thank you so much for your work. I am so excited. So I want to just dive into it because this is a topic that's actually near and dear. And I think we're going to have a good conversation with each other about this around college. So you have some thoughts around college. And I want to just make sure that I'm pulling up the right joint. All right. Like, when we talk about college, is it college, career, or both? So why don't you just tee this up for us? And then, I'm your producer today. So whenever you have media ready to go, you just give me the nod and I'll put it up. But what about college, career, both? Why was this the topic that you want to lead off with?
Yeah, so this has been like a developing topic for me for a few years now. And a lot of what I now question comes from my own kids, my own sons. I have two sons, 11 and 13. And the way that they see the world is almost completely different than how I see the world because they are engaging in more technology. There's so many different factors. And my question is always like, is this world ready to embrace the way that they see the world? Is the educational system ready, to teach them in the way that they need to be taught so that they can be all that they can be, right? Or are we kind of stuck? And a quick story. So years ago, I was working for a charter organization and it was all college, right? It wasn't career at all. Like that was not a conversation. It was like college. We're going to get you at 5 years old and we're going to see you all the way through high school. And our hope is that you're going to get into a great college. And that's it. That was the only track. And one of my instructional leaders sat me down and she says, I find this really interesting. not everyone's going to go to college. And I'm like, what? You're not going to go to college? And I apologize for the background noise. I'm going to try to get that to be lowered in a second. But I was kind of shocked because she was the first person I ever heard say that. And she was like, there are also career pathways. And I was like, what? Tell me more. And so we sat and we had a conversation where she's like, listen, it's college. College is great. It's dope. It serves its purpose. But let's not forget about other opportunities, right? For livelihood, for doing what you love that may not involve going to college, right? So it shifted me to instead of saying college only, to college and career. So now I'm at both. So that's pretty much the foundation for today's conversation. That one conversation that happened about 10 years ago.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, I think, I'm interested in this conversation. I want to make sure that we got your video ready, but it likes to act up a little bit. But I think that I think that's an interesting conversation. Though. I think that there are a lot of people that have different feelings about that. So let me what changes, I guess, to practice do you feel like you made or your schools made? Let's go a little bit deeper into it, right? Now let's shift from you not just the educator, but also you as the mom. What is that looking like for you before we jump into any type of debate? And I'm gonna get your video ready.
Absolutely. So for me, it's changed the conversation from this very kind of this one way, do it this way, go to college is the only way, to what other pathways could exist that can also lead to success that don't necessarily involve going to college. And again, I'll use my sons as an example, right? Because I've to them been both mother and educator. I said, you know what? I'm not going to force my sons to go to college, right? So I've already started that, right? And I'll give you another little, story. I have tons of them, but my 13-year-old, he came home one day and he's like, "Mommy, there's a fundraiser at school." I'm like, "Child, I hate fundraisers. I don't want no parts of them. I'd rather donate than to sell candy. I don't want to sell candy." He's like, "Can I please sign it out and do it? I'll sell it, Mommy." I said, "No problem." So I signed my name on it. And instead of bringing home the one box, he signed out 4 boxes. So now he's in the car telling me, "Mommy, I signed out 4 boxes." I'm like, I don't know why you did that. He was like, "But don't worry, I've hired employees." I'm like, "You did what?" He said, "I have employees. Student, I don't want to say their names, but student A and friend B are going to support me in selling this." And I said, "First of all, you didn't do what I said." Right. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is kind of brilliant. Right. Long story short, he had with his team sold 4 boxes of candy worth $60 each and was able to send me a receipt showing that he made all the sales and submitted them to the teacher and done. And it's like he started his own business. So do I take my child like that and be like, if he decides that he wants to pursue business early on or learn how to, begin building wealth or learn how to be a CEO of his own corporation at this age, do I tell him, "Hey, no, if you want to do that, you got to go to 4 years of college, spend $100,000 and then we could talk about it"? Or do I create space to have this conversation now and see what other pathways could exist should he desire to go in that direction?
I love it. So, but I have some thoughts, and I have up one of the videos that you had because Instagram is not liking it at the moment, but it's all good. But let's see. Gary V has some interesting things to say about college, and then we'll talk a little bit about Gary.
Yep.
Parents grew up in an era where a degree was safe, but companies, guys, watch the world. The biggest companies in the world every day are stopping requiring college degrees. It's just not as valuable. No, really, and I'm gonna use this for everybody. Everybody's so crippled by decisions, but you never know how the other thing worked out. Let me give you an example. Let's say you don't go to college and you start this business and you were 100% right and it's huge and you're doing so great. Yeah. But because you did that, you had to fly to America for a big meeting and your plane crashed and you died. That would be a bad idea. Or you think you're gonna go to college because it's a good experience and you'll meet people. You can meet people in a business. You're not gonna know. As some of you guys know, I famously passed on Uber twice, which means currently I missed out on $600 million. You could think that's a mistake, or if I would have invested in Uber, maybe I'd be somewhere else right now and picking up a disease that would kill me a year later. Maybe, whichever one you choose, you'll never know how the other one would have played out. I think people overthink decisions. You'll never know what the alternative would have been. So just pick one and do it. Parents grew up in an era where a degree was safe, but companies, guys, watch the world. The biggest companies in the world every day are stopping requiring college degrees. It's just not as valuable. So, but it might be, but for you.
So I'm gonna stop it there. I know that's not the video that you initially had or whatnot, but I feel like he was, you know, let me give you some space. Go ahead, move it. Listen, this is family. You know what I'm saying? If you wanna move to another location, you go move to another location.
A little turn next door, and I'm like, okay, let me just.
We haven't heard anything.
But finish your statement before I move.
You've been fine. You've been fine. No, I can make my statement while you're moving if you like, but I would just say I could take you out if you want to, if you're still gonna be able to listen. I'll say this, right? My thing around college is this, right? Like, I get that sentiment. I fully understand that sentiment. I think that, and unlike you, I've heard a lot.
Yes,
of
go for it, and in 2 minutes I'll be where I gotta be.
Yeah. I have heard. Yeah, go ahead and take your move. I'll go into it because I got it. It's long. I'll tell you my whole thing about the college joint. I think that I have heard a lot of people say that kids don't need college, but most of those people have been white folks that got college degrees telling black kids or telling schools that are not serving black kids well that they don't need college. And I think that sometimes schools are using that somewhat as an excuse to not be held to the highest standard. When I worked in the district, we were supposed to prepare students for both college and career. So if a child and their child's family decide that they don't want college, that's their decision. That is their right to do. That is we want them to be able to have that autonomy and that agency, in my opinion. But I think as an institution, our job is to make sure that every kid that comes through those doors is ready for one of the two. And so, you know, but I get it. I get the debt that comes with it. As somebody who has a bunch of debt, I get that the market is changing. I actually get that colleges are becoming less rigorous, that they are not really pushing young people in the exact same way that they used to. I saw a very prominent professor, I think at NYU or MIT, one of these type of like highbrow schools, you know, like an award-winning professor in math got let go or left because the kid said that his work was too hard. And he said, math not changing. I need to teach you math. I get all of that. For me, Jubilee, and for those that are listening, though, my pushback is this, right? Like, I tend to do work with young people that come from poverty. I tend to do work with young folks that where they don't have a lot of options. So when I look at a Jubilee Ransome situation, somebody who's clearly highly educated, somebody who's been to college, like there's a safety net that's kind of built in there on some level. I'm not saying you rich and you balling, but I'm saying on some level, there is space and room for you know, to kind of take that time to figure it out. But I'm somebody, and I work with people that are like me. I'm somebody who both parents were jailbirds, in and out of jail. I worked with parents that were, you know, both my parents were high levels of poverty, grew up homeless. Like, college for me wasn't even a question. And without college, I don't know if I'd be here in the same space. I don't know if I'd be this entrepreneur. I don't know if I'd be having an impact. I think with a high level of certainty that I would have seen a jail cell if I didn't go to college. I think with a high level of certainty that I would have had a low wage, a low paying job that did not have much upward mobility. So I think if you got that type of support system around you, and you got people that been there, and you got some safety nets, like these are the same kids that get to take gap years. I didn't know a gap year doesn't exist in the hood, yo. So I don't disagree with the logic behind what you're saying, but my push on that is I am seeing more established families go into places that are not as established, and telling that to young people. And I'm not saying that people can't make it without it. A lot of people obviously can, but statistically speaking, you still make exponentially more money by having gone and completed college. So, you know, we can, let's jump into it now. And I love Gary V. Gary is my guy. I love that dude. That dude is incredible. And was incredibly gracious to me when I was starting Energy Converters. All this stuff you see, all the books I write, all the ebooks, like that I do, you know, Gary V helped spark a lot of that by spending time with me and pouring into me when he didn't have to. So got love for Gary V forever. And I told him this. So but yeah, let's have our back and forth. I'm with it.
Let's do it. So I'm first generation going to college. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like my parents are West Indian immigrants. My mom is Jamaican. My dad is Trinidadian, and they both came to this country in the 70s. You know, as of right now, they both have gone to college, right?
Mm-hmm.
They let us go to school, right? My dad specifically let us go to school, and he went to college and went all the way up to get his master's. And my mom, while raising, 3 kids as a single mom, went to go, get her degree. But so I believe in college wholeheartedly, and I tell my sons and my students, anyone who I've connected with over the course of my career, how beautiful of an experience it is. My perspective is that it's not the only experience that can get you those kinds of results, and for us to just take a step back and to look at, okay, what's the purpose of college, right? And that's why I say pathways, because college is a pathway. What can you learn, right? Again, I'll speak from my personal experience, and anybody, can put what you need to in the chat as well if you attended college and what you learned, right? But like, okay, you can become more disciplined in college, right? You can be exposed, right? Both socially and academically, right? I studied abroad in college, and the my tuition that I was getting, my Pell, whatever grant I had, paid for me to go study abroad in Besançon, France, and engage in a second language and the culture of the French people for 6 whole months, right? So like there's all these things that college can provide. I think what Gary V kind of lifts, which is where I agree also, is the return on investment, right? The idea is we engage in this 4-year long experience, right? So that I can hopefully, right, get a job, right, or start a career in the field I studied, right? So on the pathway for a doctor, usually that works, right? You're going to do pre-med, you're going to do med, graduate, you're going to do your residency, and then you will be Dr. somebody, right? Same thing for being an attorney. Going to go to college, right? Going to go to get your, you're going to do pre-law, get your JD, and you're going to be attorney somebody, right? Going to do teaching, going to go to, you do education, you're going to graduate, you're going to be teaching in some school. But what about for career paths that don't align with that? What about the bunch of people who went for social work or some kind of business management or other fields where they couldn't even get a job in their field? There's a bunch of research out there about like folks.
That's funny. I started my career as a social worker.
Say it again.
I started my career as a social worker.
Did you? Right.
I was social worker for 5 years. Yeah.
I love it, right? There were so many people. My mom went to school for social work, but like, I lift that to say it's wonderful, but like, are folks getting their return on investment in terms of all the money that is put out, right, for that education? And then are they finding work in the field that they studied for, right? For a lot of people, that's not the case, right? They're ending up working in other places, right? That end up being possibly dead end jobs, or like, oh my God, I hate it here, but I got to make a living. Right. And so that's why I'm raising this question. Like, how do we, create space to have conversations for other pathways that not only lead to I'm off the street, I'm engaged in something that's meaningful, I'm engaged in something positive, but I'm also doing something that I'm passionate about. And I feel like my voice is informing what I am doing on a daily basis for work. Right.
Right. I mean, I want to stay there with you though, right? Because like I said, I don't disagree with any of that. I think part of it is, there's a Sharinda, I'm going to read your comment. It's too big to put up on the screen. People won't be able to read it. So I'm going to read it out loud. But before I get to that, I don't disagree with anything that you said. But part of this is, if you don't want to go to college, right? Like, I need to know what our plan is. I need to know what's going to happen because, and again, I think depending on where your parents are and what your parents got makes a big difference. I think that, like, you know what I'm saying, whatever that safety net is, like, I knew I was leaving that house at 18 years old. I knew like that this is kind of the path that I was going to kind of go on. And it's not, and I would have did college way differently. First off, I wouldn't have majored in poli-sci. I love politics. Donald Trump was president, fam. Like, I could have, like, I would have majored in engineering to, like, learn how to build things and learn how to think spatially and do those things. I think that that's like a much more valuable degree personally. But like I said, I don't want students to make a bad decision at 17 years old with no plan, because at the very least, it could be like, look, give me these 4 years. After that, you can do whatever you like. And I think that we're in such a PC time that, like, people are not always telling the truth. They want to say the right thing as opposed to the real thing. And so what I felt like is that those white people were coming into my schools and saying the right thing to these kids, but at home was going to say something different to their kids. And it's like, so the right thing is that, well, do whatever you want, go explore and go do this. And at home, they was like, no, you're going to college, especially if I'm paying for it. You're not majoring in poetry. You're going to major in some type of STEM thing that actually has, like, some value. And then you can do whatever the hell you want. But if I'm paying for it, this is what's happening. Or if you know what I'm saying? So, but I like this. I like this conversation. Let me read this from Sharinda real. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? We have a sponsor today. So I am actually going to let our sponsor speak. And on the other side of that, we will get to some of these comments and talk. See y'all on the other side. Come on right back with us.
Do you feel overwhelmed with an invincible feeling of sadness? At Meditative Bliss, we will help you overcome the inexplicable stress you get from the boring routine chores and attain the solace and inner peace your soul has been yearning for. This innovative medium will be a source of the most peaceful and relaxing free music. So get ready to experience a euphoric treat for your spirit. Visit us on YouTube and Spotify anytime. Meditative Bliss. Serene your soul.
Thank you to our partners at Meditative Bliss. Go check that out. It's free. It's on YouTube. Tell them that the South Star Classroom sent you. So I want to read what was said in the chat, because I think it's a good comment for this conversation. Yesterday, one of my scholars said she thinks school's purpose is to get a job and being part of a generational cycle. I thought many things. One is that a college degree doesn't even guarantee you a job or career that will earn you a nice income, especially as a person of color. But it was the scholar's apathy about the purpose of college that has bothered me. And you know, I'll give a quick comment on that and throw it to you. Like I said, statistically speaking, folks that have college degrees still earn more than people that do not. And I think that, but part of the reason that this conversation has gotten so popular is because there are outliers, and there are very popular outliers. It's like an NBA player, like, you know what I'm saying? But the NBA only got like 1,000 jobs, 2,000 jobs for like millions of people that want that job. You know, or we'll see something like, oh, this tech billionaire, this person that made it, but I lived in that Silicon Valley area. For every one of those that made that, it's thousands that don't have much to fall on, and are now working and depending on gig economy jobs for their livelihood, which is not a situation that you want to be in. So I don't have a problem with Sharinda said, what you said. Like, I actually want people to do the things that they need to do. I just want to make sure that there is a plan in place intact, and I want to be very aware of who are the people that are saying that. Like, again, usually the people that are saying that have degrees themselves, have some type of upward mobility themselves, and have kind of done these things, and may not be fully aware of the familial situation that those other folks might be in. But I say, give everybody the information they need. You should be leaving school ready for college and career, you know, and honestly, I think our system needs to do a better job of fulfilling both of those, but I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. I think definitely it's about ensuring that there's a plan in place. I think that, and I was actually just talking to my bonus mom about this the other day, because in Brooklyn, New York, which is where I'm from, whoop, whoop, always shouting out my city.
Oh, we can hear it all in your voice.
You know.
And I like your background too, by the way. I love it. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you.
It.
You see, everything worked out for better. They got loud and I got a better background. See? But yeah, we had schools. We had cosmetology school. We had a mechanic, school. We had different trade schools, right? And certifications connected to graduating from those schools.
Right.
Over the years, though, conversation about that has lessened. Funding for that has lessened. And it's like, college, right? And so for the student, because not every student, even if they're
and I consider trade schools college, by the way.
Oh, do you?
Absolutely. I think you will listen.
It
don't matter. It don't matter what's going on in the world. It don't matter what type of recession it is. Toilets will always break.
Come
Pipes
on,
will always
need plumbers.
need to be redone. And anytime something happened to my plumbing, it costs $300 for that man to come out and even look at it.
Okay.
I think those are great jobs, and we actually need to be doing more around them because as a country, we don't know how to build and fix things no more, and that's a problem to our national security. But go ahead.
But everybody got a podcast. But I digress.
As I have them, yes.
Except for this one. Now I'm not.
No, it's true. I mean, listen. I told you if I could do it over, I would have majored in engineering. Like even if I didn't get a job there, I need to, as somebody who owns a house.
Yeah.
And like as soon as I started owning my house, as opposed to living in an apartment, and stuff started breaking, and it's like, oh no, you're the maintenance man. Oh wait, I don't know how to do none of that. And my cousin who went to the service and then was a firefighter who knows how to basically build houses. He passed away last year as we were building this studio. We built this together. But he knew how to fix stuff. Like there was utility in his knowledge set. And I think that so trade schools are colleges to me, in my mind. I think the community colleges should actually be pushing that a little bit better and a little bit more. But I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I'm with you on that. And that I think that's part of my perspective, right? Post-secondary education, right, could be college, right? Or trade school, or certification. My best friend years ago said, listen, we did 4 years, right? We did 4 years. I went to SUNY New Paltz, upstate New York, and she did engineering. Incredible. Her mind is incredible. Right now she's a senior engineer. She's doing all the things, right? But I remember us having a conversation where she was like, I know you're going back, shout out to you, because I went back twice, right? But she's like, going back to school for me in this field of engineering does not add any value to me, right? So for her to do an undergrad in engineering and then go get a master's in engineering and then go get a PhD in engineering, right, doesn't help. She said, what helps me is certifications, right? So my messaging, right, to my students, to my sons is get that knowledge, right? Learn how to master a skill and do it well. Whether it is through college, whether it is through trade school, whether it is through apprenticeship, right? Keep the learning going because learning is lifelong, right? And then figure out how you're going to get some kind of certification, degree, paperwork that shows, hey, I can do this very well, enough to be able to sustain myself, enough to be able to land a position, enough to be able to teach somebody else, right? And that's why I say pathways versus just talking about college all by itself.
No, I think that makes all the sense in the world. I absolutely do. I think that makes a ton of sense. And then, but let's talk about why that conversation is so big and why it's so important. And for the record, I want y'all to understand too, Jubilee is not only a guest today, Jubilee has also helped produce today's show. So the next topic that, I think Jubilee said that really well is part of the reason that we're having this conversation is because of fears and barriers. And so, when you said, I want to have a segment on fears and barriers, why was that? What did you mean? And where should we be starting in this conversation? And I'm gonna be vulnerable on this one. So you got this, host.
No problem. So back to the example that I gave with my son starting a business to sell his candy. My whole response to him was out of fear and frustration because I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't want to be involved in this, right? So I wasn't broadening my thinking to be able to truly hear his perspective, right? And he was like, Mommy, why are you freaking out about it? I'm like, because, right? I'm saying you didn't do what I asked you to do, right? You did something different, right? And even though it was brilliant, I was kind of closed-minded in the beginning. And I feel like that applies to how we listen to the now generation, right? Those that are in school now, right? We take what used to be, we take what we're used to. We take how it used to be done and we go, listen, why can't y'all get it this way? We did it. You learn it this way versus, right, taking a moment, taking a beat to listen to their perspective and way of thinking and then factoring that in. Right. So once I took a step back to listen to him and his perspective and like stop freaking out, as he said, then I realized that the little boy started a business. He was moving in his entrepreneur hat, right? That he's seen his mom do 1,000 times, right? But I was afraid because I'm like, I don't want to pay $240 because you went to start a business without my permission.
I mean, look, I'm gonna be all the way real with you since you just now meet me, Jubilee. I'm gonna keep it a band with you. So went to double-digit number of elementary schools across the country, moved a lot. You know what I'm saying? My parents was on that stuff for a while, was homeless, lived in 4 shelters, right? So, and I watched my dad lose job at the job and not have a lot of stability. And I was like, look, I don't want to be that. Got my first job at 12 years old, illegally selling, I don't know if it was illegal or not, but our script was definitely a lie, selling newspaper subscriptions. I was in Oakland, so we sell subscriptions to the Tribune and to the San Francisco Chronicle, and we would get like $20 for every subscription that we sold or something like that, which when you 12 years old, that's actually pretty good money. After that, you know what I'm saying? I always had some kind of hustle. Even in high school, I'm from that era where burning CDs was like, it was just coming up. And so I guess all this was kind of borderline illegal, but my dad went to Costco and got like a new little computer, and it had a burner on it. I got my first investment, got me a spindle, and because we moved out of Oakland to this place called Stockton for a year, my senior year, and people wanted CDs, so it was $5 for you to make you a copy, but they wanted that Oakland mix, so I would be like, okay, but that's $10. I was making about $80, $90 a day on top of my job at McDonald's that I had, right? Because I needed to have some bread. In college, I had to do work study, worked in the library, which is a great place to work if you're on work study because you can study at night. And college libraries are open very late. And then I worked at a shoe store 20 to 30 hours. Like fear and barriers drove a lot of the decisions that I made. Being homeless, and I can remember what the shelter smells like now. I'm never going to be I'm saying this with all honesty, and Jubilee, not to be intense because it's your first time meeting me.
I could take it.
I'll die before I go back to a shelter. I'll die. I will die. I will put a mask on and do something before I go back. I'm never going back to that. I'm never, ever doing it. You know what I mean? And I think that so when you talk about fear and barriers, right? I watched the lack of mobility that my parents had. I watched white people control their life, control what they did. I watched my grandmother, who was a nurse, and if you said the term self-care to her, she'd be like, baby, what is this gibberish that you talking about? If you said mental health day to my parents when they was hustling, they'd be like, what is that, right? And the reason why I push back on some of this stuff, if you got a plan and you know what you're doing, God bless. But we have started to weaponize some of these new age terminology that I think is actually truly important. I do think self-care in the way that it's supposed to be administered is very important, but I also see a lot of people, and not just this new generation, misuse those terms. Those things that become get out of jail free cards. Those things have been safe words to get out of having to work at a certain rate or deliver a certain type of work. So when you talk about fear, it might have been my fear that pushed me and that had me, but fear actually serves a purpose. Fear is what keeps an animal alive in the wild. There's a reason that fear is a part of our DNA. Now, it shouldn't be able to control you, but you need an active amount of fear, an active amount of shame. We see what happens when all that stuff goes away. You become a reckless human being. So I didn't mean for us to get super deep and philosophical on that.
I'm good. I'm good. Keep going.
I mean, but Jubilee, this is gonna happen if you coming through the South Star classroom. But I haven't disagreed with anything that you said because I can also tell how thoughtful you are, and but you also somebody that got a degree, and I'm also somebody that got a degree. We also not living in squalor in the way that a lot of other people are, and I do think there is a level of danger of going to schools that are poverty-ridden and poverty-stricken neighborhoods where there's not a lot out there and there's not a lot of mobility, and in a society where we making a lot less. You ain't got that factory job that you can have a wife and 3 kids and you the only one that's working. Like that existence is not a reality anymore. I just don't want to set young people up for failure while I have all these degrees on my wall and I can go do whatever I want to.
Yeah. I think I love what you're saying here. And I think, again, back to the whole planning thing, that's really, really important, right? Let's not be out here all willy-nilly, just being like, just dream and have no accountability or no plan, right? But I'm on the other side, right? So I'm a creative, right? I'm a singer-songwriter, right? As well as a leader in the ed space, right? And even across sectors. And when I was in high school, I'm gonna give you vulnerability right back. I went to high school in Brooklyn, and I signed up for that high school because they had a law program, like a mock law program or what have you. And since I was in 5th grade, I said I'm going to be an attorney.
I want to be an attorney too.
Yeah,
pre-law, baby.
Got up in this
poli-sci pre-law. That was the goal.
I thought I was going to go to Yale, right? Yale Law School. I even had the booklet or whatever. And so when I went to high school, that's what I went for. And I loved my poli-sci classes. I loved them, right? Till I heard there was a gospel choir. And you couldn't keep me in my law class. They had to make me a new schedule because I was cutting all sorts of foolishness, okay? Jubilee was going to school and not going to school. Jubilee was going to Burger King. Jubilee was going everywhere, okay? But class, you feel me? I was singing, I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid. And they like, getting cut cards and I'm talking about she ain't been in periods 1 through 8, right? Because I have both sides to me, right? And if you would have told me at the age of 15, at the age of 13, hey, you got to get that up. You need to go stay in your law class so you could be somebody. Forget that singing stuff, okay? Maybe you could do that later on in life. Right now, you just need to stay the path and do what's going to get you a job. I wouldn't be the Jubilee you see today.
I'm going to push you though, Jubilee. I'm going to push you. Go ahead.
All I'm saying is let's watch our messaging, right? Because I think that as educators and as human beings, we have shattered many a dream by not listening. That's one of the barriers, right? My parents listened to me, right? I didn't get to do everything, right? But if I was interested in it, and it was both and, right? It wasn't either or, it was both and there's beauty in the both and. And I just feel like we need to apply that to the space. If a little girl right now comes and says, I want to be a fashionista, why be like, well, are you going to go to college? Why not just follow the conversation and see and allow her to keep on dreaming that dream? Because nobody made a difference in the world, right? And any of these people that we admire, right? Even as we were talking about Gary Vee earlier, right? He's a social media influencer, a hell of a businessman, right? How many times
he would switch those, by the way. He would say, I'm a hell of a business. Most of the commercials you see up here is actually all me, and you don't know it. And then he'll say, I didn't say nothing for 10 years. I was building a company and being successful.
Yes. And he is saying things that are unpopular that I am sure for a while nobody wanted to hear. Not in this world where everybody's like college, and he's sitting there getting told off by parents. He had a little live on it or what have you, where he was like, listen, I was getting inboxes of parents just telling me, stop telling my kids to not go to college, etc. All I'm saying is let the dreams live, because to your earlier point, right? Like there could be a dead end street of not going right to college or what have you, but there could also be a dead end street if you don't allow students or children to dream and to pursue the things that they really care about, right? And it may not.
I'm pushing you, Jude. I'm pushing you because here's the thing, Jude. You could have still went to law school. You could have still did all that stuff and those things you wanted to, and still been singing Melodies from Heaven by Kirk Franklin at 8 o'clock.
Rain down on me.
Rain
down on me.
Every Mid Sunday, that was what they sung. So because look for our Latino, because it's a black and brown normally education show. We just went real black Baptist Pentecostal elk ilk
Yes.
of that joint, but you could have did both. And Jubilee, you are also saying this as somebody who went to a SUNY college. You went and you took the classes that you wanted to take. You had parents that kind of gave you direction and gave you a sandbox to play in. You went freaking overseas and studied overseas. Like you have done, you see what I'm saying? Like we are the people that have actually done those things. And it's a long life, Jubilee. Like, give me 4 years. It's cool. Give me 4 years of the safe option that you can fall back on. You know what I'm saying? Like, because if you just saying I'm about to drop out just to do a podcast, now listen, there are some people that can do that. Mr. Beast is a beast. He is incredible. Like, you know what I'm saying? But there's one Mr. Beast. There's one Casey Neistat. There's one Gary Vee. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and what I'm saying is that when the stakes are really high, you don't take a lot of like crazy. Like I did all that stuff and I still wanted to play hoop. I still went and did that. You know what I mean? But as we talk about, you know, I'm a creator as well. Like you're a creator, and this next sponsorship is from another creator. I think this creator might look a little familiar.
What's up, everybody? This is Charles. I'm excited. Today is the day. The book is out. It is out. The Agentic Black Parent ebook. It's 100% free. 100% could have helped me a whole bunch of my parents. The link is below, but if you don't see it, just go to charlescoder3rd.com and download that thing. If it helps you and you like it, share it with somebody. All right, man. Y'all have a blessed day. One.
So yes, I sponsor the show as well. So, you know, pay for my own commercials. I need to get the volume up higher on that one. But that's my point is that give me the 4 years. Give me.
What
like,
about 2?
Let's plan it out. That's all I'm saying.
What about 2? What about 1 intensive year?
That's cool.
Is it about the time, or is it about gaining experience and knowledge?
It is about making sure that
expertise.
It is about you about to go out into the wilderness and you ain't never been here before. It is about, there is some fear that's in there, right? Like, especially if you have people that struggled before you. Like, again, I think listen, I ain't got no kids, right? But I got 4 degrees. I have a couple, like, if I had kids and they were just like, all right, this is what it is, this is what I want to do. I have the resources here if they fall on their face. I actually have the stuff, and you know what I'm saying? But a lot of people don't, is what I'm saying. And like, again, when we say get our babies ready for a career and college, like if I got to know what that plan is, I got to understand what that plan is, because the movies, you don't make $500 million blockbusters in movies off of the failed thing, right? Like those stories are of the people that made it. The Steve Jobs stories is one Steve Jobs. It's one. It's one. You get what I mean? And he was a genius. Like, you get what I'm saying? So I think you should definitely support your kids. And even in my book, I talk about exactly what you're talking about. In the book, I have parents run down what makes my kids smile? What's the best environment that gets the most out of them? What are their fears? What do they love? And a lot of the parents that I do the workshop with, they be like, oh, I got to go talk to my kid. So you should be talking to your kid and seeing what they want. But if Jubilee really wanted to be an attorney and she wanted to get that on, you know what I'm saying? There is nothing stopping her from going to choir practice on Tuesday nights. Like that, I'm just saying it's a false dichotomy that they don't have. But I get it, because I subscribe to some false dichotomies to get me through. I told myself a lie too. I said, I'm gonna die if I don't finish this college degree. Like my plan was to do everything the opposite of what my parents did. Neither one of my parents went to college. Boom, I'm going to college. My parents got pregnant early. My mom's was 20. Boom. I can't have no babies early, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course you can have a child early and be super successful. Of course, like you can not go to college and be super successful. But it's a numbers game. I wanted to get like on the right side of the numbers game. And I knew from where I came from, I didn't have to be the best. I built this cartoon about, and it's basically the boy, the bear, and the forest. And it's like, when the bear is chasing you in the forest, you ain't got to outrun the bear. You just got to outrun everybody that's with you. And so that's a scandalous, horrible, like very like dog-eat-dog way to think. But that I lived in a very dog-eat-dog like environment and world that I got to see the brutality of it early. Like one of my best friends was murdered in between the 8th and 9th grade. And I would go on to lose 5 or 6 other people even before high school was over. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? The last 2 years, I've lost like 10 people, right? Like still grieving folks, like still having the effects from that. So what I'm saying is the environment that folks are coming from and where they are, I just think that we got to think about how we're approaching those things. Now, if you got a super dope, like critically thinking child that has thought these things through and can lay that stuff out and gives you benchmarks, and it's like, all right, mom, if you give me 2 years on this and this don't work, I'm gonna go to that trade school. You can walk in with me, I promise you.
Yeah.
Then that's different. That's a different level of maturity. But I'm telling you, there's gonna be some people without the mental fortitude that is gonna hear some of those influential people that they respect saying that, and they're not gonna do the extra work to make sure that they kid land in the right place. Because when you look back, it's like, I could have did that damn 4 years. I could have did this. I could have did that.
So question, thank you for sharing that. Like, what was the catalyst for you? Like, what is it that inspired you to go to college? Like, when did you know, yo, I got to go to college? Given your background, given, you know, everything that was going on family wise.
Oh yeah,
like,
I knew early. I knew early. I was basically
How?
raising
Like,
myself.
what is it
I'm
that
gonna tell you.
Yeah.
So I was born in Maywood. That's a West Chicago suburb. My grandmother lived in Kentucky. I moved back and forth with her and my parents. We would go back and forth. And she died when I was 10. That's when I ended up in California. Once my grandmother was gone, that safety net for when my parents messed up and that we had a place to stay, and that was gone, and that safety net turned into shelters, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. And I was 6 years older and 8 years older than my brother and sister, respectively. I was like, I knew at 11, I knew at 12 that I don't want this life. I don't want to be in the welfare line with my kids. I remember wearing somebody else's clothes. It was like a giveaway at church. And, you know, you get up and you got to go around and put money in the tithing box. And I was wearing a shirt that one of the parents made their kids donate. And one of the kids was like, that's my shirt. And listen, and I did not sell drugs because I was just a good kid. I did not sell drugs. I just didn't have a heart to sell dope. Like, I just wouldn't have been good at it. Like, people be like, oh, you made these right decisions. No. I was just scared. I was just a punk. That just wasn't my calling. You know what I'm saying? But I wasn't going to be broke. So the catalyst for me was the hatred for where I was at in those type of circumstances. And I said, it's not going to be me. Like, it is very much a 50 Cent get rich or die trying type of situation that, and, you know, I didn't have it like he did, but I understand the sentiment. There's a reason that title resonates with so many people. The same type of people that will be born in a different country and be a doctor in a different country and save up all their money and come and start all over in New York and then look at their kids and be like, you think you about to go do what? You want to go to the poetry slam? You must be out your damn mind. Like you know what it took for me to get over here from Jamaica. You know what it took for me to get over from the Caribbean. You know what it took for me to get over here from Saudi Arabia. You know what it took for me to get over here from this other, you know, from Brazil or whatever the case is, right? Like, people risk their lives, you know what I'm saying, to have, you know, these options that we kind of poo-pooing on right now. You get what I mean? So I get it. I understand it. And I know the right answer to all this stuff, but I'm here to give you a real answer. I'm here to, like, we're going to have this conversation, you know what I'm saying? Because I know. Now let's talk about what happens when mom ain't. So what happens when Miss Jubilee ain't there no more? And now that plan that I had, and I didn't have those other plans, what am I falling back on? And this world gets a lot colder. And I was blessed. The catalyst for me, Jubilee, I was blessed for the facade of how ugly this world could be, that was ripped from my face when I was 5 or 6 years old. I saw what was out there. Like, I did not have that innocence. That naivete was a luxury that was not afforded to me. And it helped me. It also hurt me. That's why cats need therapy. And I'll be joking. I'll be like, don't give me a therapist. Give me a psychiatrist. I need somebody that can prescribe some dope. Give me something that got my name on a bottle. I don't want a glorified counselor. I need somebody that's like,
don't you do that to the therapist? I love my therapist.
I'm a social worker, so you had to do it. So if you didn't do your therapy, if you didn't do your clinicals, right? Like, if you missed 2 or 3 weeks, you couldn't go out in the field. You had to deal with that transference. So I know that world. So all I'm saying is, it was those catalysts. And I think that your child is blessed Your family is blessed because they have you. I don't know much about, their father. I could assume, no judging from you, you know what I'm saying, that he probably on that same tier, but they are blessed to have people that have went through it, that have had this experience. Man, when me and my mama got to the college to like do my classes, and I was blessed to have my father and my mother both, but neither of them went to school, right? My mom was a dropout. We pick our classes. We pick classes like we was in high school. I had classes Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 3:30, baby, for a full year.
Because
we didn't know.
Early. Yeah.
Because we didn't know. But you get what I mean? So that inherent, Jubilee, that inherent information that you have to pass down to your child to make sure they planning, along with your upbringing of those immigrant parents that made those sacrifices and was like, all right, kid, like, you got to make it do what it do over here. You know what I mean? I think that that's special, and I think that you helped give us a very special episode today. Okay, we got to talk that talk. But go ahead, we got 10 minutes left. Do your thing.
Okay, so watch the interview. I'm not gonna say the celebrity status, but he pissed me off.
We're talking.
Charles Barkley pissed me off.
Oh, I like Charles. Come on, talk about it.
Oh God. Because he got up there. Now, again, I didn't see the whole video, right? But the small clip was just like, okay, when I go to white schools and I ask the students, what do they want to become? They say they want to be doctors, they want to be lawyers, etc. But when I go to black schools and ask them what they want to become, they say they want to be rappers and basketball players.
That's what they said at my schools.
And that's what they said at my school. Every single one of them. Not all the students wanted to be that, but that was pretty prevalent, right? And I'm not mad at it, right? But the first thing that pissed me off is the comparison between ethnic groups, because we already know, right? There are different stats that are informing this perspective, right? And so we know that children want to be what they see for the most part. And so if there's different, SES, if there's different conversations happening, right? Not saying that they are not happening, in African-American homes and Latinx homes, right? Just saying that children want to be what they see or whoever they admire, right? Or whoever's most influential, right? So that was the first piece. Like, please stop comparing, because there are different, pieces of information informing it. 1. 2, he made the whole point to say that he's, a basketball player. And to your point, it's very slim to none that you'll become that. That kind of triggered me, because it's like, but if that's what a student comes and says, I want to be a rapper, a student comes and says, I want to be a basketball player, right? Why do we have to shut it down, right? I think that's an open door for a conversation for what else could be a pathway, not to diminish that student's desire, right? Case in point, I wrote, and I usually don't do back and forth on social media or whatever, but this post, I had to put something down there. So I said all the things to Charles Barkley, and then as if he'll read it, but whatever, you never know. But he had to get it that day. And then I talked about this idea of preserving the dream, right? Preserving the dream. The person who posted said, I agree with what you're saying. I wanted to be a rapper too. And it wasn't until I began having conversations with my educators, right, or whoever was most influential, where he realized he could also get into public speaking. Right? Which is why I'm always like, there's beauty in both and. He said, I didn't know that was an option. Could it be that our babies are having these dreams and no one's validating them and then showing them what else this could look like, right? So that you're able to still tap into what you're passionate about, maybe even go to school for it, but other ways in which it can show up. And he said, I want to be a rapper. I said, well, guess what? A rapper and a public speaker both have to know how to communicate with an audience, how to connect, and how to get a message across. It's a similar skill set, right? So if one of my babies comes and says, I want to be a rapper, I'm like, oh, it's too many rappers. Oh, 1 in a million make it. I want to talk about that, because this is a kid's dream, and we need to keep that alive before we end up with another generation of children that are in dead-end jobs doing stuff that they don't want to do, or just trying to earn a paycheck, to that person's point earlier about the apathy. Right. So I think the creative in me, the passion in me is like, how do we preserve both? Do your 4 years, do your 2 years, do your trade school, but like keep that passion, and let's not extinguish the dream of the child, which I think is really, really, really important.
I 1000% agree with you. You want to know something else? I actually think that you ultimately agree with what Charles Barkley was saying. Let me tell you why. Let me
Okay.
tell you why. I love Charles Barkley, and the reason why I love him is because I disagree with him a lot. I love Charles Barkley because he said what he wants to, and he's entertaining when he does it. Even when I be like, bro, what are you talking about, right? but you know, but part of what he was saying, listen, you are an educator. You are a person who articulates for a living. Like, this is what you do. This is who you are. He's a country boy that was really, really good at basketball, you know what I'm saying? And from the South, and like did what he did and said from the gate, I don't want to be your kid's role model. But it was basically saying the same thing you said. You have to expose our young people to more things, so it's an option. So here's one of my best friends played in the league. I played basketball too. I didn't play professionally, but I wanted to be a ball player, and I was pretty decent. I was pretty good. And so, you know, but nobody talked to me about the thousands of jobs around basketball that pay great, whether it's a trainer, whether it's I really wanted to be a sports agent like Jerry Maguire, but I didn't see a black Jerry Maguire. You get what I mean? So, so if I had known that, I love basketball more than I love people. Look, I like talking this education stuff, and I like education, but I would pick talking basketball over education on most dates. I just want to be very honest with you, right? Let's have we're gonna have a real conversation here, right? Like, you get what I mean? So what I think look at what I got on today. I got on my watch. I have gold teeth in my mouth with diamonds in it. I have a diamond chain, and I have a cross, a custom-made cross with nails that make up the cross. These are nails, right?
Wow.
And I like suits as well, right? But the reason why, when I was in Milwaukee talking to 40 black boys who are going to be the first in their family to go to college. And I had a book that I put out last month. It's a free ebook. It's not like I don't want it. It's an ebook, but it's about being the first in college and knowing these things that you don't know, that I didn't know. But I look like them, right? So now they asking questions. We couldn't get through the full presentation. Wait, what you do? Wait, you a doctor, but they piecing it together, but you talk like me. You look like me. Like, you driving the kind of car that I want to drive, that rappers rap about. So wait, hold on. That you can see the pieces turning. Wait, I can get that kind of car without like having to take like jail chances or selling dope or just only rapping or just only playing ball. And like, when you don't see those things, you know what I'm saying, presented to you. Also, you don't look like teachers from 50 years ago. You don't look like educators from 50 years ago. You got your hair done up the way you want it. You got some fly glasses. You feel me? Like, you got the side of your head is like shaved off, right? Like a young lady is gonna see that and be like, oh, she look like my auntie. She looks like, you know what I'm saying? Like, she still look fly. She still look cool. So I think what Charles was saying was, you have to expose these people. And also, he's just a guy that don't. But he's just a guy that don't fluff nothing. You know what I mean? So like, the stuff wasn't fluff to him. I love hoops. So the reason I wear rubber bands around my wrist is because of Charles Barkley from when I was a kid. Like, it's a basketball thing, but I saw him do it first. It's a discipline thing, right? But Charles was a superstar out of college playing for the 76ers, and he was mad because he wasn't getting no run. And he talked to Moses Malone, right? And Moses Malone was like, he said, Moses, man, I'm like one of the best in the country. Why I ain't playing? And Moses looked at him. I'm gonna tell you how Charles got advice, why he gives it this way. And Moses looked at him, one of the greatest ball players of all time, said, because you fat and you lazy. He was like, because you like, you fat and you lazy. You don't work hard. And your talent, hard work is gonna take you places that your talent can't take you. That's right. So get your ass up and meet me at the gym. And like, if you want to be the Charles Barkley I know you can be. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's not just a comparison. I don't really care what white folks do, but I think that people will use a successful proxy, and a successful proxy of like, well, what are the conversations? Because I went to two different high schools, and I went to a black high school that I love, right? And Moses Malone did, Miss Toya. She was asking me who did and who said that to him. But my black school didn't have a lot of money and a lot of resources. And I remember, you get caught with some gum, spit that gum out, do this. I switched that last year. I went to Stockton in this school where I was first majority black, and then this other school, it wasn't that many black people, but it was a much larger school. But I saw kids coming into Spanish class with lattes and, and eating and food. And like, it wasn't like, oh, you can't go to the bathroom right now, or take this damn tire iron down with you as you go to the bathroom in the hallway. they talked to them like it was like they were adults. Like, oh, how was your weekend? Like, what did you do? Oh, what you need? Oh, you gotta go to the bathroom. Go ahead, go to the bathroom. Have somebody take notes for you. Like, it was these things, these subtle things that were different. And I think that we shouldn't be policing our kids. 2, you do have to let our kids dream. And 3, we have to show them the swath of things that they want to do. So maybe somebody wants to sing like you, Miss Jubilee, but they can't really sing. I can't sing. But it's so many jobs, it's so many things you can do around the love of music, and I gotta let you explore that. But a lot of our babies don't have the space, room, and opportunity to explore. And I think, and that's where I 1000% agree with you. So whether it's college or career, I think that's a personal decision. I think, who am I? Far be it for me to tell Miss Jubilee Ransome what she needs to do with her and her babies. And that's why I believe in school choice, because I think that that's just some of the most arrogant shit that you can do, is tell grown people what to do with their kids when you wouldn't do that with your kids.
Come on.
And 2, I really, really think and believe, for us as a people, we gotta let your babies explore stuff. Let them expose them to things. You don't know what they might like, and they don't know what they might like. That's the other thing. We gotta we'll let, and this is where you have to be an adult. If that kid is 14 years old, that's 14-year-old angst that don't want to do nothing that their parents want them to do. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'll end my long-winded thing on this. I won the first ever, I played basketball, and my history teacher, my parents, and my basketball coach conspired to make me do debate because I was always getting kicked out of history.
I love debate. Yes.
I went to the summer camp, and I took 13th place speaker and team. And Charles does not do 13th place. So I took that medal and I chalked that thing. I threw it as far as I could. I came back to school. I got a new partner, and then the first competition came, and I took first place speaker and first place team.
Bravo.
And you know what I did next?
What?
I never did it again. I could have got scholarships. I could have did whatever. And I wish in hindsight that my parents would have been like, you can play as much basketball as you want. You can do whatever you want, but you're going to keep debating. Like, if you just won state, if you just won the highest level that we have, and people from Emory University and all these people, they giving out scholarships for this thing, and we broke, my parents let me quit because I did it. I did it that one time or whatever. They should have for sure made me do it because I was a child. I was a dumb, pimply child that only cared about basketball and girls. Like, why are you letting me make any major decisions and you see a real opportunity right there? That's all I'm saying. Like,
I understand. It's the ebbs and flow in parenting.
I probably wouldn't owe 6 figures in loans back right now. That's all I'm saying. Oh my God. Jubilee, how you feeling, man? Have you enjoyed yourself today?
I have. My cheeks are hurting because that was a lot. It was hilarious and it was informative all at the same time. Yeah, and I think we agree or connect on many things. It's not more about agreeing more than like understanding. But yeah, I'm still on the both train. I'm still on like you preserving the train while challenging. I do agree with that, right? Like debate and basketball, right? The beauty in the both end. That's all I'm saying. And then the exposure piece is huge. And I feel like that could be a conversation for another episode, because I just think that we as the educators, as the parents, as community leaders, right? As adults who care about children, I think we have the responsibility to provide that exposure some kind of way. Either it's going to be through the CBO, whether it's going to be through the school, whether it's going to be through, religious organizations in the community, mentorship. How do we get our children to see, right, what they can become, right? How do we get them to see what happens, behind the stage? And I'll say this last piece. About 4 years ago, I had an opportunity to be on a Wendy Williams show. I'm a breast cancer survivor, and she had a segment for breast cancer survivors. Thank you. And so I, for the first time, was on national TV, and of course they bring us through to kind of talk through the script and tell me where to stand and all the things. And there wasn't a black kid, there wasn't a black person behind the stage operating the cameras, directing. The only other black person out there was one of the, let me correct myself, the senior producer, who now happens to be one of my closest friends, was black, right? Afro-Latina, and the DJ. Other than that, everybody else with the skill set for operating these cameras, for calling the shots or whatever, was white, right? Now, you might see, now I don't know if this generation cares about Wendy like that, right? But they might see Wendy and be like, oh, I want to be her because she's speaking. But to your earlier point, there were at least 15 more career paths behind that camera than they were in front. How do we get our children, right, into spaces where they can see what they can be? More of that. So we can add to, I won't say replace, add to basketball player and rapper, right? And help them get to, wherever they desire to
Hey,
come.
and God bless the ball players and the rappers. If they made it, that's great. You know what I'm saying? It's not dumping on them. And I found, we were talking about Gary. I found our guy. I found something, and
Okay.
it's my second time doing this show.
Process. Education might be the only industry where we don't listen to the user, the end user. Everybody else is obsessed with the end user. You are obsessed with your clients and how they're experiencing your product.
My man, I got real news for you, man. People out here aren't listening to the end user either.
Really?
Yeah, man. I sit in, that's what marketing is.
Right.
Like Coca-Cola sits in a room and they're deciding, and they have all this information from the end user and they're not using it. To your point, when somebody listens to the end user and is obsessed with the end user, they become Amazon. But I become me when I'm just listening to the end user. But man, listen, education's got no chance. Government's got no chance. But in business, ideologically, it's supposed to do better. Unfortunately, it's not how humans roll. Empathy is a rare trait. It's a rare trait. I think way too many people doing good right now are scared to show any part of what they need because they're worried that people are gonna be cynical to them. I needed to do a lot of things before I started putting out a lot of content and on my cost. And so I don't judge people getting to a place. So I think that's number one. You're number one. You're the engine. And then everything else is secondary.
So I found that clip since we were talking about Gary. Like I said, I owe that man a lot, and I want to appreciate you. And I'll just end on this because you are obsessed with end users as well. Parents in your home, your kids are your end users. In schools, your kids, you and your community is an end user, but you have to talk to you have to talk to your child. You have to talk and see what they are saying that they are interested in. And then you have to use your wisdom. You got to use your experience to try to expose them to new things. Yeah, they might be rebellious. Yeah, they might stomp their feet or whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? But if you have had the good God blessing to see this world, do things, make mistakes, you got to allow your kid those same options. And then that way they can truly live the life that they want to live. I'm not saying just send your kid to school blindly. I'm saying that talk to your child and be obsessed with your end user. And I would just say for my guy, David, for Omar, we missed you today. Jubilee, do you have any final thing to say before I close this out?
This was great. I don't have anything to add. This is great. And to be continued. We'll have
an open invitation. I just said it loud. I just said it here. You have an open invitation, especially with a lot of my travel picking up. But that's Jubilee. I'm Charles. We will be back next week. Same bat time, same bat station. You have been watching the South Star Classroom, and we will see you all next time. Peace.